In New York City, John Wick, accompanied by his loyal pit bull, seeks refuge with the Bowery King while subjecting himself to grueling, relentless training. His knuckles split open, blood dripping onto the floor as he pounds a wooden board without pause, driven by equal parts rage and unshakable determination. Every strike echoes his vow of defiance. Eventually, the Bowery King approaches and, with a mixture of curiosity and concern, asks if John is truly prepared to confront the High Table. With a brief but unwavering reply, John declares his readiness, signaling his resolve to embrace the impossible path that lies ahead. His journey soon carries him to Morocco. Mounted atop a horse, John charges across the dusty landscape in hot pursuit of men loyal to the Elder. One after another, he eliminates them with ruthless precision, blades flashing, bullets finding their marks, until at last he confronts the Elder himself. John demands the return of the ring he once surrendered as a token of loyalty, only to be told that it is no longer in the Elder's possession. Enraged and unwilling to listen to excuses, John executes the Elder in cold finality before riding away, leaving behind yet another symbol of his rebellion against the order that once ruled him. Meanwhile, in New York, Winston and Sharon are summoned by the Harbinger to meet Marquis de Graymont, an emissary of the High Table. When the Marquis learns of the Elder's death, he chastises Winston for failing to contain John. As punishment, he orders the destruction of the New York Continental and formally brands Winston as excommunicado. To deepen the cruelty, the Marquis personally shoots Sharon in the chest, forcing Winston to watch in helpless horror as his loyal friend breathes his last. Crushed by grief, Winston laments bitterly that it should have been him instead, his voice breaking under the weight of loss. Across the sea in Paris, a blind assassin named Cain sits silently in a park, attuned to the sound of his daughter Mia playing the violin with delicate grace. The Marquis intrudes, coercing him into service by threatening Mia's life should he refuse to hunt John on behalf of the High Table. Though long retired and weary of bloodshed, Cain reluctantly accepts the order, bound not by loyalty to the table but by the deep, unshakable love he carries for his daughter. Meanwhile, John seeks sanctuary at the Osaka Continental, operated by his trusted ally Shimazu Koji. Koji's daughter, Akira, serves as the hotel's concierge, her sharp gaze filled with suspicion toward John's presence. Despite Akira's distrust, Koji grants John refuge within the hidden recesses of the hotel. Their fragile peace is shattered when Chitty, the Marquis's ruthless right-hand man, arrives with a heavily armed squad, determined to flush John out. Koji's men rise in defiance, loosing arrows from the shadows as waves of assassins pour into the building. When the battle reaches the rooftop gardens, John arms himself and unleashes his familiar lethal artistry with a storm of controlled violence. Cain soon enters the chaos, carving his own path of destruction. Using sound traps and his heightened senses, he locates enemies with chilling precision, his sword and pistol working in perfect tandem. Amidst the turmoil, Akira joins the fray, cutting down several of Chitty's men before suffering a wound of her own. John aids both Akira and Koji in their retreat, fending off pursuers with unmatched mastery, this time wielding nunchaku to devastating bone-shattering effect. Eventually, Cain and John face each other directly. Acknowledging their shared history, Cain insists he must still pursue John for Mia's sake. After a brutal but brief clash, John slips away. During the firefight, a tracker known as Mr. Nobody enters the conflict with his loyal German shepherd, dispatching several assassins who hunt John. Though his eyes gleam with hunger for the bounty, Mr. Nobody judges the $20 million price too low and, for the time being, chooses to aid John. Elsewhere, Koji and Akira encounter Cain as they attempt to escape. Despite their long friendship, Koji refuses to let Cain advance and protect John's trail, forcing them into a desperate duel of blades. Although given chances to retreat, Koji refuses, fighting with pride until Cain delivers a fatal strike. Akira cradles her father in his final moments, consumed by grief and fury. Reaching for his sword, she longs to kill Cain then and there, but he warns her against walking the same doomed path, promising that they will meet again. Heartbroken, Akira departs for the train station, where she later encounters John. Enraged, she blames him for Koji's death and vows that unless John kills Kane, she herself will claim vengeance. Meanwhile, Winston and the Bowery King meet to discuss their perilous situation, fully aware that their ties to John place them directly in the crosshairs of the High Table. At the same time, the Harbinger reprimands the Marquis for his excessive brutality in Osaka. The Marquis, however, defends his actions coldly, insisting that they are necessary not only to destroy John Wick but also to dismantle the very myth of his invincibility. Mr. Nobody later approaches the Marquis, demanding that the bounty be raised to $23 million in exchange for John's death. To test his mettle, the Marquis stabs a knife through Mr. Nobody's hand, forcing him to choose between abandoning his claim or freeing himself with pain. With grim resolve, Mr. Nobody slices through his own flesh, withdrawing his hand without hesitation. Impressed, the Marquis agrees to his demand. John, carrying the weight of countless battles, later meets Winston at Karen's grave, offering solemn condolences for their fallen friend. As they discuss vengeance and survival, Winston advises that the only path to true freedom from the High Table is through a formal duel with the Marquis. Though such rituals were long regarded as half-forgotten legend, Winston convinces John that it remains his only chance. The obstacle, however, lies with John's estranged family, the Ruska Roma, who severed ties and cast him out long ago. With no other choice, John resolves to face them once more. In Berlin, his return is anything but warm. A priest greets him with a shotgun blast before stringing him up with a noose, dangling him as if mocking his life on borrowed time. His adoptive sister, Katya, consumed by bitterness over the actions that led to their father's execution, confronts him face to face. Seeking redemption, John offers his help. Katya demands that he prove his loyalty by eliminating a German High Table member named Killa, the man she holds responsible for her father's death. John infiltrates Killa's cavernous nightclub, its pulsating lights and thunderous music masking peril at every turn. There, amid throngs of oblivious revelers, he once again finds himself face to face with both Kane and Mr. Nobody, who have tracked him down and wait for their opportunity to strike. Seated for a tense card game with Killa, the confrontation takes a perilous turn when Killa shamelessly cheats and immediately orders his men to strike against the three assassins. While Kane and Nobody stand their ground against the wave of thugs, bolstered by the fierce loyalty of Nobody's dog, John slips away, relentlessly pursuing Killa across the labyrinthine corridors of the club. The oblivious patrons, still dancing under flashing lights and pounding music, remain unaware of the deadly battle unfolding around them. With nothing but a card, John slashes Killa's neck, sparking a vicious duel that pits his precision against Killa's sheer strength and overwhelming weight. As Killa's men fall one by one to their grim and inevitable demise, John's determination burns unyielding. Even after being hurled from a balcony, he forces himself back to his feet, his resolve unbroken. In the end, he corners Killa and sends him tumbling violently down a stairway, his body smashing fatally against the ground below. John claims one of Killa's gold teeth as proof of his victory and presents it to Katya, who accepts it with grim satisfaction. She guides John through a ritual in which he endures the searing mark of the family crest branding, formally securing her allegiance for the fateful duel that lies ahead. Winston soon confronts the Marquis with an official demand for the duel, emphasizing the Marquis's sacred duty to uphold the traditions of the High Table. Although the Marquis resists at first, Winston presses firmly, insisting that the challenge must proceed. He proposes that if John prevails, Winston's excommunicado status will be annulled and the Continental restored under his stewardship. Yet the Marquis warns him that, as John's second, his destiny is forever tied to John's survival or death. Later, John meets the Marquis in the presence of the Harbinger to finalize the duel's conditions. Both men agree to face each other at sunrise upon the steps of the Sacré-Cœur in Paris, locked in a traditional gun duel. Failure to appear before the appointed time would mean immediate forfeiture and certain execution. Kane, chosen as the Marquis's second, is promised freedom for both himself and his daughter should he succeed in killing John. Carrying the weight of inevitability, John visits a church to pay solemn tribute to his late wife, Helen. There, Cain joins him, and the two warriors share a rare moment of peace, reflecting on everything they each stand to lose. Shortly thereafter, John meets with Winston and the Bowery King, who arm him with a new weapon and an impeccably tailored bulletproof suit. Meanwhile, the Harbinger warns the Marquis that if he were to fall at John's hand, the High Table would extract a terrible price. To ensure John never reaches the duel, the Marquis dispatches Chitty and an army of killers to intercept him. Over the city's airwaves, a sultry-voiced radio DJ broadcasts the bounty on John, inciting assassins across Paris to hunt him before dawn. As John presses onward toward Sacré-Cœur, he is relentlessly pursued, the city itself becoming a battlefield. Brutal street clashes erupt, with John fighting through ambushes and even weaving through the chaotic traffic near the Arc de Triomphe, where cars collide and assassins are crushed beneath metal and glass. Every step is tracked by the High Table, ensuring an endless tide of killers join the chase. Within a sprawling warehouse teeming with adversaries, John arms himself with incendiary ammunition, raining fiery destruction upon his attackers. Meanwhile, Mr. Nobody lends his hand, dispatching foes with sharp precision while simultaneously bargaining for a higher price from the Marquis. Eventually, the Marquis concedes, inflating the bounty to a staggering $40 million, an irresistible lure that draws swarms of desperate assassins, only for them to meet swift and bloody ends. At last, John reaches the imposing steps of the Sacré-Cœur, cutting down waves of enemies before facing Chitty, who manages to hurl him back down the staircase. Bruised but unbroken, John rises again. Cain soon appears, fighting at John's side against Chitty's men. Mr. Nobody also enters the fray, driven by Chitty's earlier cruelty toward his dog. Together, they dismantle Chitty. John weakens him, the dog sinks its teeth into his most vulnerable spot, and Mr. Nobody ends it with a merciless shot to the head. As a mocking final gesture, the dog urinates on Chitty's lifeless face. Moments before sunrise, John and Cain stand opposite one another, pistols in hand, preparing for the solemn ritual of the duel. They exchange rounds, each taking 2 bullets. In the third volley, Cain drives a bullet into John's abdomen, yet to the astonishment of all present, John refuses to return fire. Believing victory within his grasp, the Marquis strides forward to finish John himself. But Winston interrupts, branding him a conceited fool, and reveals that John still holds one final bullet. Too late to react, the Marquis falls dead, executed by John's last shot. The Harbinger solemnly declares John and Cain free from their chains to the High Table. Mortally wounded, John staggers down the stone steps, whispers Helen's name one final time, and collapses. John Wick dies not in bondage, but as a man finally set free. Fulfilling his last request, Winston and the Bowery King lay John to rest beside Helen, beneath a headstone etched with the words, "Loving Husband." The Bowery King wonders aloud what awaits John in the afterlife, though Winston admits he cannot know. Together, they depart, and the Bowery King assumes the duty of caring for John's loyal dog. In the post-credit sequence, Cain makes his way toward his daughter, Mia, yearning to reunite with her. Yet as he approaches, Akira silently steps from the crowd, blade in hand, her eyes burning with vengeance, ready to avenge her father's death. This movie teaches that the cycle of vengeance only deepens suffering, yet determination and honor can give life meaning even in chaos. The film highlights the importance of loyalty, as allies and bonds often prove more valuable than strength alone. It also shows that freedom is never truly free. It requires sacrifice and the courage to face inevitable consequences. Ultimately, John's journey reminds us that finding peace sometimes means letting go, even at the cost of everything else.